Hi everybody, it's been such a long time and I know this, but I just want to share more about my process, about my Kundalini Awakening process, which I think the last time I shared was like, we were really living in Colombia, so probably 3 years ago. And I find it so important, and thank you for your emails. This is Zeus, because it just brought so much awareness that it's so important to also share my process, you know, and that doesn't mean that your process will be exactly like how mine is, but what it means is that like it can bring you a peace of mind of like, okay, cool, this is what it's happening, I'm not going crazy. That was my story. I was like, oh shoot, no, let's believe that I'm not going crazy. So finding those people that actually had been going already through the process or were deeper in their awakening process than me, like, helps so much. So thank you for that. I'm super grateful. And let's go with it, yeah? So he's almost 1.5 years, so he's still his puppy mode. Let's go with the cracking. I mentioned that there was a lot of cracks. I think I also said that my arm was doing all these things, you know, which it still does it, but it's very minimal. And when it does it is when I'm actually doing a process of healing that is called inner dance. So more of like when sound healing is around me, or when I'm holding the space, or I'm actually just in the space of inner dance, my body tends to move so much with music. And it's almost like an instant trance state. It's just like, ooh, music, all right, let's go. And then my body just like, boop. But the cracking part that I had shared years ago, it is in my cervical spine right now, and the concentration is mostly on my left side. And it's something so fascinating. Okay, so let me tell you, because I'm so fascinated by the human body and by the fact that we can actually let go of all these things that we had carried for so long and we had no idea that we were carrying. And so it's so wild, because let me share with you what I had been going through recently. And when I talk about recently, I mean like, goodness, up to like 2 weeks ago, or even like, yeah, like 2 weeks ago or last week. Oh my gosh, it sounds so weird when I say it out loud. It's kind of like normal when I talk to my boyfriend about it, because we're so used to seeing each other cracking and doing all these things. Like, I often tell him, dude, if we had like a TV show that would follow us around and like and just like see what our bodies do, it would be like, people would be like, what in the world? Okay, so what happened was that I felt like I was choking on my own cracking and my own saliva, and it was so uncomfortable, let me tell you. But the cool thing about it was that I felt it, that every time that my neck, specifically this part of my head, okay, so like the top like vertebra of the cervical spine, every time it cracked, like I felt this like liquid just passing through it and moving, and the body will rearrange, which will also rearrange my hips, you know, and my sacrum, which that's another topic. And so it was so wild, because I normally sleep on my back, and there's many reasons for that, but I'm way more comfortable sleeping on my back, and I couldn't, because there was something that was happening on my cervical spine that I felt like if I just lifted up my chin just a little bit, I will feel like choking, and that air wasn't even coming in through as much as it needed to, and then that will bring just so much uncomfortability throughout the night. And so I just sleep on my side, but sleeping on my side also made the cracking be more accessible for my body. So whenever I would be in my back and my side, then my cervical spine will crack in some kind of way, and then this part of my sternum, and I know it sounds so weird saying that my sternum cracks, but like it will crack, and there's this like the vertebra and the back of the heart and the back of the chest will like crack too, and it rearrange, and like the energy would just like move, and I could breathe again. But it would be like all these things that for so long, honestly, it just felt like I couldn't sleep at night because my body was so uncomfortable. There was something so much moving in my cervical spine that it was like, dude, we can only like sleep in this direction, which I wasn't really used to. And it was weird because even while being up and going, you know, like feel that something is there. But like I said, like there was one moment where like I saw it, you know, and I saw, for those of you that are not very familiar with my work, you know, my concentration on awakening process is through energy. So I'm able to see the energy, especially when parts of me or parts of whoever I'm holding space for wants to show me something. So then I saw when my body was trying to tell me, you know, that every time that there was this choking sensation, there were all this like the energies and the energetic channels of the cervical spine and around the head into the brain was just like pulling apart things for those things that were stuck to be able to move, and the energy like flows, you know. And it was just so wild. It was so wild because even throughout that, and it will bring a lot of flame, you know, which is something so funny because then my boyfriend thought that I was like really sick. and when I saw that in my body, because every time that the energy, like the cervical spine will begin to crack and something will open up and it will crack, then the phlegm will come through. And I know it sounds so gross. Now that I'm saying it, I'm like, dude, that sounds so gross. But it was so fascinating that every time it will crack, somewhat of a phlegm will come through. And then I'd be like, what is this phlegm? You know, like, what was I holding in the part of my cervical spine through this phlegm thing? Or maybe it was just some kind of release that it just released as a phlegm. I mean, it's just fascinating, the fact that the human body just has the ability and intelligence to just release so many things, and if we let it do it, it just does it. So let me talk about the crack in relation with my pelvic area. If you don't know my history, that's just like a really brief history, that I was like massively suicidal for about 1.5 years. And depression was a really deep part of my story. I mean, goodness, now I realize, you know, that I had been depressed most of my life, but I didn't know, and suffer from anxiety, and I still didn't even know that I suffered from anxiety because I didn't even know what anxiety was. It's not like somebody said, hey, if you feel like this, that kind of means that you are anxious. And that was not something that I talked about with my parents or my brother or friends, you know, I mean, just not. But regardless, I've always been a very happy person, so I think I will use my happiness to mask that, okay? But it just reached a point in 2013 that 2013 was the peak of the depression where I was suicidal, but I think it just built up, okay? And so there's a tendency that when you are suicidal, very depressed, your crown chakra is closed, but also the root chakra. So, you know, the connectors to the higher realms, right? Whatever you call it. And also the connectors to the earth. Like you don't feel that you're worthy of connecting in either direction. And so part of like the massive healing that I had gone through because of having those suicidal tendencies was also healing my womb and my root chakra, which that goes into like the legs, the way that you work. I mean, it's just like a massive topic that perhaps I'll talk about it in another video in depth. But there's a connector that goes from the tip of the nose all the way down to your pelvic area. And whenever I will have intense cracks, and let me tell you that it doesn't look very fun or even it just doesn't look very sexy either, you know, or very attractive whatsoever when it happens, because it's like I'm stuck in this direction, my mouth is like open, like and it's like the energy is waiting for some kind of opportunity to crack and move, yeah? So when that normally happens, and then it has started from my neck into the back of my sternum on the left side, and as soon as it crack, then also my pelvic region will crack. And I know it sounds so weird, but of course, this is my story, right? And if you feel it too, it's not something to be like, what in the world is happening? It's just like, can you just imagine the intelligence of your body, that when you give it space and when it's ready for it, it just moves energy, and anything that is stuck, and I'm talking about, it doesn't have to be something like so ginormous in a way, like my suicidal tendencies, but it could be something as small as like somebody calling you ugly, as a kid. And like as a kid, like we take things like way different than as adults. So it could be something minute like that for a kid is not minute, but I'm just giving you an example. So like anything that is stuck in there, like wow. And the whole rearrangement of my sacrum also like brought so much healing of my womb region, and also of course the root chakra. I recently just had a surgery in my cervix because my doctor found precancerous cells there, and so I removed those cells so they wouldn't become cancerous. And let me tell you that that's what I needed to do for my body. That's what my body told me I needed, because the moment those cells were out, it was like, wow, a brand new beginning, like a new body, and just letting it also heal and letting all these emotions come through, right? Which brings into, it's okay for you to feel all the shittiness. I mean, we live in this life, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things is like the duality, right? Some people might not really like it, but if you don't know the shittiness of life, or you don't feel the shittiness of life, like how are you possibly going to enjoy the beauty of it, right? Because some people's like, oh yeah, the happiness and the light and all these things, and then when it comes to like the sadness of the darkness, it's like, oh fuck, like why are you here, pushing something so beautiful away from you? And goodness, your darkness, oh gosh, it's so yummy, it's so powerful, and it really leads you to your light and your power. So I just wanted to share that, and like I said, I'm really grateful for your emails and your comments, because I do read them all, even if it takes me a little bit to reply. And I love to know where you are in your process, and if there's something maybe a video that I can talk about if you're going through a particular part of your process, just to explain it a little bit in depth from my own experience and my experience of holding space for others. And also starting the new moon of June, which is the 17th, this Sunday actually, I'm starting something really beautiful that resonates so much with me, and it was a message from Spirit too, to have online sessions for $50 an hour. So if you feel the call to do so, we'll put the link below. And yeah, so anyways, thank you for listening. I'm so grateful, and I hope that your journey is full of so much beauty, so much awareness, so much grace, and growth in the most gentle way possible. And before I go, I just want to show you this little guy. Look at this cute little guy. He just came here to chill. This is my little baby Zeus. So, thank you for listening, and sending you so much love. Choppies.